So the very first thing I do is organize my tracks into the buses and the groups, get my mix bus set. In other words, I always have a certain thing on my mix bus and I just mix into it. I always have parallel channels set up and I just mix into them. So when you get your multi-tracks from somebody, you throw them in a session, it's just going to have whatever default output is on when you import them. You then have to take your lead vocal and bus it to, you know, send that lead vocal to your vocal bus and put the parallel stuff on it to the parallel channels if that's what you do. I generally will take my lead vocal and send it to my lead vocal bus, and most of my processing is done on that lead vocal bus. On the channel itself, it has SSL channel strip on it. That's it. So put SSL channel strips on all the tracks first, okay? Second, I'm going to have them take lead vocal, send it to my lead vocal bus. And it could have different things on it. In my template, I'll show you what's on it, okay? Lead voc here goes in a lead voc bus. Now, lead voc bus has on it RVox is the first plugin I always rock on this bus. And you may say, oh, that's interesting. You put compression first? I do. I find it just brings the vocal to the forefront. And again, keep in mind, I've got a channel strip, which actually hasn't gotten added yet. But I'm going to put it on right now, just so you guys can see what's going on. I'll go through my SSL, and I generally will rock the 4KB. Okay, and these are this is a mono track, so there's no reason to put a stereo channel strip on it. The 4KB SSL is my favorite channel strip at the moment. Love the way it sounds, and you have a little less control over certain things like the ratio. It will go from a static 2, stepped to 4 to 1 to 10 to 1, whereas on the other channel strip of the SSL, you actually have the ability to get between the numbers. So, you know, to each his own. I have a tendency to like this one just because of the simplicity, and it's a little, I don't know if the word is darker, but I just like the way it colors it more for some reason, you know. And again, my opinions change with the weather a lot of times, so it's not like it's always this way, but for a long time, probably, I don't know, 6 months, I've been rocking this thing as my favorite. Okay, so every once in a while, I'll just use a different thing and be like, oh, why was I ever using this other thing? This other thing's better. That's part of this. A big tip here is thinking you know what's right is only going to put you in a box where everything you do sounds the same. So have the mindset of you may know what you like, but you never know everything. There's always something that you may like more, and your taste may change with genre, with the weather. Like, it could change with anything, all right? So stay open-minded. You know, if I see somebody else do something using something else, I may actually try it and be like, oh, this is cool. Because that's the trick. The trick to this is never think you know the answer. Always think you have an idea, and always think something else may be right, because that'll allow you to entertain other possibilities. You'll never be closed-minded. Thinking there's one way to do anything is the way to get yourself to make everything you're doing sound the same. Sucks, okay? So we got this on it, lead vocal channel strip, and that's going to allow me to EQ and different things, but then I can EQ into this. This is being sent, this lead track, to this, it's called, I call it All Right M6. That's just, it's my vocal bus. Notice All Right M6 is right here. That's my lead vocal bus. It has RVox on it, set this way, just because, you know, it brings the vocal to the forefront. I just wanted to make a quick note of something very important. The things you're about to see is if I'm going to be not using parallel processing, all right? This bus is the vocal bus sound. This is it. If I'm going to be using parallel processing where I now have multiple other channels for the vocal to be processed through, I'm not going to use dynamic EQ on this bus. I'm going to use the dynamic EQ on the track itself. The dynamic EQ is going to change the way it sounds, and you don't want to send that. You don't want one bus doing that and the other bus is not doing that. It's going to create a phase situation that's not good most of the time. So instead of that, if I'm going to use dynamic EQ and multi-band processing of any kind, which includes a de-esser, I'm going to leave that on the track itself, not on the bus. You see what I'm saying? So if parallel processing, think of it like this. You're not parallel EQing. You're not parallel dynamic EQing. You're not parallel dynamic multi-band processing. You're not doing that. There you go. I have a Pro Q3 on it in case I need to do anything. And this was set from the last session. So what I'll often do is I'll import I'll import stuff that maybe worked on the song before for that person. Because a lot of times I'm not mixing a lot of times if I mix a song for somebody, I get more songs from them because they like the work. And that's just, it's not always the case, but if that was the case, I'll start from wherever the last song was, because if they're going back to the same setup to record, like this guy goes to a professional studio to record, and when he does, he comes out with stuff that sounds similar. In other words, he liked the way the last product sounded, so why would that engineer change the mic up or change the mic pre or whatever? They're probably using the same thing. So because they're using the same thing, I'm going to start from a place of the same thing, because that to me makes sense. So now again, if I go in and stuff doesn't sound good or right, I'll just take this back to the default. I'll just go to nothing and start from there. But in this case, I'm going to leave it up at what it was to start with. Okay. After that, I got my buddy, the CLA 76. Now, this is the Waves version, and I like this in particular because it's so easy to test the Blackie or the Bluey without opening another plugin. That's really the only reason why I prefer or use this sometimes over the UAD version, because the UAD does sound awesome and maybe even a little better, to be honest. But if I start with this and it sounds great on Bluey or not, I could flip to this. Does it sound great on this or not? And I'll often attempt to try this before I go to the UA. That's just how I roll. You do what you want to do. This gives me a quicker way to test different compressors that both are very similar in the attack and release world, but different in the sonic signature. A little more grit on the Bluey, a little more dirt, a little more maybe mid-range forward. I don't know how you would really describe it if you want to get outside of words like color, dirt, grit, so the Blackie is a little cleaner. That's really how I look at it. Now, when you get to what I have after that is my CLA 2A. So in this case, I've got this on 4-to-1, but as I've talked about, I will sometimes set something like this on 8-to-1. I've done different things, but and again, this is just what worked on the last song. It could be the opposite of what works now, so I may take this stuff off. But after the 1176, we have the CLA 2A. All right, after the CLA 2A, I've got this JJP plugin. Now, if you notice, most of the, I keep everything off. I just like that the magic is this airy factor, very similar to the Mag EQ, the Airband, which is why I dig it a lot. And when he made this plugin, there's a couple things about this plugin that are really unique and cool. So if you notice, the compressions are all the way down. I like the de-esser on it. I love the way the de-esser works because it's very imperceptible. You really don't even notice it's there, but I'll rock the de-esser. And then you can maybe give it a little highs, a little lows, okay? But this is just the way I have it set up for the last song. So don't look at this as this is the end all. This is the answer. This is just what worked before. And again, it's only a click away to just default just to get it back to nothing. So I'm always knowing that, and I could always turn it on or off. After that, I got my Xnoise de-esser in the chain because I've mentioned before, Xnoise de-esser, mwah. Love the Xnoise de-esser. All right, maybe it's called Vice de-esser. I don't know. Is it Vice or is it Wise? I don't know. But either way, Xnoise de-ess set. I don't know if you'd call this. I have it on vocal soft, but I definitely changed the settings a little bit. So this is just what worked on the last song. Again, I'm a dude who plays with stuff, so I'm there. I'll start it somewhere, but I'll often mess with it. You could see where it is here. It's 7K. Is where the de-essing starts. All right. So, what else? I got Xnoise, and this is something I've mentioned before, but I watched it in a Dave Pensato video, and it really it struck home for me. It was if you don't have some sort of thing to reject noise at the end of your chain when you're adding a bunch of stuff, you will get noise in the signal, and that noise is sometimes very noticeable if your vocal needs to ride super hot on top of the mix. So if that happens, why not start with it on there and just mix into it? That way you're never throwing it on at the end and then being upset with what it took away from your signal. You're just living with it from the beginning, working into it, creating what you need so that you're happy. That's the way to do stuff like this. That's the same way I rock with parallel compression with my mix bus. You mix into it. It's there from the beginning. Why put it on at the end and then be upset with what it's changing? You might as well mix into it. Then you get the benefits of it from the beginning, and you don't have to chase your tail when you add it and then you got to change stuff. That's why it makes no sense to mix first and then turn the mix bus on afterwards with mix bus processing and then mix again. Why do that? I turn everything on and then I mix into it, okay? So the Xnoise, and I got the limiter on. Now the L1 limiter, it's just as I'm partial to it because I started with this thing, you know, way back. This is one of the original 25th anniversary. This thing's been around, all right? Since when I started mixing, I was using it, so I like to use it a little bit. Just a little bit of, you know, -6 on the threshold, -3 on the ceiling, release in this zone over here, all right, 42.66. And I've been using this type of setting for a long time, so I just keep using it. All right, but bottom line is I'm mixing into this stuff. So if something starts to sound crazy or I don't like it, maybe I'll switch this limiter out with, you know, you could switch it out with the fab filter, you know, L2. You could switch it out with the any limiter, the Oxford limiter. But I like this one because it's a little aggressive. I like that on vocals, okay? So it's like I'll use those other type of limiters on the mix bus, but I won't use an L1 on the mix bus. You see what I'm saying? Like they're for different things. So this is my lead vocal channel, all right? I don't want to make this video too long, so I'm just going to let you see how getting this sent to this channel and then this bussing out, you know, this is getting sent out through my Burl out 3 and 4 channel. This is how, like, I rock everything gets sent out of the DAW into my, you know, console summing mixer. And by doing that, the console summing mixer puts everything together and that runs through my mix bus chain, okay? So my mix bus processing is happening after that, all right, out of the box. Then it goes into the box as a 2 channel, and then there's some more processing of, you know, limited nature on the mix bus inside the DAW. So this is what I'm doing. You don't need to do whatever you want, but you know, this is what I do, okay? So there's no right or wrong way. Like I said, mind open. Mind open means you could always pick up a little tool, a little gem, and add it to your flow, and then you get something better. It's not there's a one way to do it. That's never the answer, especially in audio. And it's why I love it so much, because I'm the type of person who could take a sentence that's really simple and interpret it 1,000 different ways. It's gotten me in trouble in life, honestly, because when I'm driving down the road and I see a freaking sign for directions and it says something, I've never gotten those right in my life. I'm always like, what does it mean? Does it mean this? Does it mean? And it could be something so simple. Like, you know, it could be like exit 46 ahead, you know, bear right or whatever. And I'll be like, what? And I'll try to interpret where this, is it this arrow? They got 6 things on the freaking highway, you know, highway overpass sign. What does it mean? I'm a terrible person to interpret simple things because I see all the possibilities when I look at something. It's impossible to live this way. I don't recommend it, but you gotta, this is a good thing for audio because why have one way to do it? Why not be able to explore all the exponential possibilities that exist? You know, why not? So works for audio. It's bad for driving. If you're like me, it's okay. You'll get through life. I promise. We'll get into what's on all my channels later. I can't make this an hour video. Hope you guys liked it. If you did, hit the like and subscribe button. More stuff to come. Gotta mix this song, but we'll do more of this stuff later. All right? Take it easy. Evan Jaffe, Custom Cut Studios. You guys got this.